The warm rays of the morning sun spread across the tranquil fields of Greystone Valley, illuminating a picturesque farm nestled in its heart. This land, passed down for generations, once symbolized prosperity. But for Eli Turner, the humble farmer who now owned it, those days were long gone. Struggling with debt and failing crops, he was on the brink of despair. For years, Eli had done his best to keep the farm running, raising a small flock of chickens and growing just enough crops to survive. His once thriving fields were now overgrown with weeds, and the weight of his family's legacy pressed heavily on his shoulders. His wife had passed away years ago, leaving him alone with his farm and his thoughts. The only solace he found was in the simple, familiar routine of tending to the land. Then, one chilly spring morning, everything changed. As Eli made his usual rounds, something caught his eye. A faint glimmer in the dewy grass near the far end of the field. Intrigued, he walked closer, his boots sinking slightly into the damp earth. What he found left him frozen in place. There, nestled in a shallow depression, was an enormous egg, easily 3 times the size of any chicken egg he had ever seen. Its shell was a pale, pearlescent white, covered in swirling patterns that seemed almost otherworldly. For a moment, Eli wondered if it was some kind of elaborate prank. But as he reached out and touched the egg, he felt warmth radiating from its surface. This was no joke. "What kind of bird lays an egg like this?" he murmured. Was it safe to move? Could it belong to a predator? Hesitation gnawed at him, but curiosity soon won. Carefully, he carried the egg back to his farmhouse, placing it in a makeshift nest lined with straw. He didn't know what lay inside, but deep down, he sensed that this discovery was important. A sign. Maybe even a second chance. As the days passed, the egg became the centerpiece of Eli's modest home. He tended to it carefully, adjusting the warmth with an old heat lamp he found in the barn. Yet questions lingered. Could it be an ostrich egg? Unlikely. There were no ostriches in Greystone Valley. A prank by the local kids? Impossible. They couldn't have placed it there without him noticing. Determined to find answers, Eli asked around at the local feed store, but no one had ever seen or heard of anything like it. If you're lucky, it's worth something. If you're unlucky, well, I'd keep a rifle nearby, just in case, an old farmer warned. Eli chuckled nervously, but the words stuck with him. Then, one evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, a truck pulled into his driveway. A tall man in a weathered jacket stepped out. His boots thudded against the ground as he approached the farmhouse. "Eli Turner?" the man asked, his voice deep and serious. "I'm Dr. Ian Caldwell, a biologist. I heard through the grapevine you found something unusual." Eli hesitated but finally nodded. Word traveled fast in a small town. He figured it was only a matter of time before someone came poking around. Leading Dr. Caldwell inside, Eli watched as the man's eyes locked onto the egg. "My God," Caldwell whispered, crouching down to inspect it. "Do you have any idea what this could be?" "No," Eli admitted. "I was hoping you'd tell me." Dr. Caldwell pulled out a small scanning device. The screen flickered as he ran it over the egg. "This heat. This isn't normal," he murmured. "And these markings, they resemble patterns found in fossils from millions of years ago." Eli frowned. "Fossils? What are you saying?" Caldwell hesitated before replying. "I'm not saying anything for sure, but if this egg is what I think it might be, well, you might have something that's been extinct for a very, very long time." Over the following weeks, Eli found himself drawn to the egg. He spoke to it, checked on it constantly, and felt an unexplainable connection forming. Then, one morning, it happened. A faint tapping sound. The egg vibrated slightly. Eli's heart pounded. "It's happening," he called Dr. Caldwell. The hatching process has started, the biologist confirmed. Day and night, Eli watched over the egg. The tapping grew louder, the shell cracked, and finally, a tiny, slick, glistening creature emerged. Large, intelligent eyes blinked up at him. Feathers, soft, yet hinting at something powerful. Clawed feet that looked almost too sharp for its size. Caldwell knelt beside Eli, eyes wide with amazement. This isn't possible. What is it? Eli whispered. It looks like a species of dinosaur, Caldwell said, his voice filled with awe. A theropod, maybe, but small, like a bird. I've never seen anything like it. The tiny creature let out a soft chirp. It reached out, pressing against Eli's palm. Caldwell's gaze darkened. It's bonded with you, he said. You were the first thing it saw when it hatched. As far as it's concerned, you're its parent. Eli felt a surge of emotion. This wasn't just a discovery. It was a responsibility, and it would change his life forever. Their defenses were up, but they needed more, evidence against Jora Labs. Meanwhile, Talon continued to grow. What was once a clumsy hatchling had become a creature of grace and power. But even in chaos, there were moments of peace. Eli would sit on the porch, Talon by his side, watching the sunset, wondering what the future held. No matter what came next, he was determined to protect the creature that had become his family. Then, the discovery of a hidden camera changed everything. Someone had been watching, gathering information, not just trespassing, but preparing for something bigger. Caldwell had an idea. Take the camera to a trusted contact in town, someone who could trace its origin. Eli hesitated. The fewer people who knew about Talon, the safer he'd be, but Caldwell was insistent. Caldwell. We need allies, Eli. If this goes public, Jora Labs won't be able to operate in the shadows. Reluctantly, Eli agreed. The next morning, Caldwell drove into town, leaving Eli alone on the farm with Talon. The day passed quietly, almost deceptively peaceful. But that evening, a knock at the door shattered the calm. Eli froze. His mind flashed back to the trespassers. Grabbing his shotgun, he approached cautiously and peered through the window. To his surprise, it wasn't one of the men from before. It was a young woman, mid-20s, dressed in casual but professional clothing. Eli. Who are you? What do you want? She raised her hands, a gesture of peace. Vanessa, urgent, concerned. My name is Dr. Vanessa Mercer. I work with a conservation group. Please, I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here to warn you. Eli studied her for a moment before letting her inside. She glanced around nervously, as if expecting someone to burst in at any moment. Vanessa, low, serious. You're in danger. The people after that creature, they won't stop. They don't care about laws or ethics, only their experiments. Eli. How do you know about Talon? Vanessa hesitated, then sighed. Vanessa, guilt-ridden. Because I used to work for them. Jora Labs. I left when I saw what they were doing. She explained that Jora Labs had been experimenting with advanced genetic engineering, blending DNA from different species. Talon was one of their most ambitious creations, a hybrid of a bird of prey and a prehistoric reptile, designed to be both resilient and highly intelligent. Vanessa, soft, regretful. They were supposed to destroy the eggs, but someone smuggled them out. One of the scientists couldn't bring themselves to let them be destroyed. That's probably how Talon ended up here. Eli, conflicted. Why are you helping me? Vanessa, determined. Because what they're doing is wrong. Talon deserves to live free, not locked in a lab. Vanessa's arrival brought both clarity and complications. She offered to help, but Jora Labs had far more resources than they did. If they wanted to stand a chance, they needed proof. Later that night, Caldwell returned. His expression was grim. Caldwell, serious. The camera? It was traced to a distributor used by corporate security firms. It's definitely connected to Jorah. The three sat around the kitchen table, forming a plan. Vanessa suggested reaching out to a journalist she trusted, someone with experience exposing corporate wrongdoing. Meanwhile, Caldwell would continue researching Jorah's operations. Eli? His priority was clear: keep Talon hidden and safe. Days passed. Talon continued to grow, not just in size, but in intelligence. He had started mimicking Eli's behaviors, opening doors, fetching tools, even standing guard at night. Then, one evening, everything changed. Eli was woken by Talon's piercing screech. Then, the sound of breaking glass. Grabbing his shotgun, he raced downstairs. Two masked intruders stood in his living room. Eli, commanding, "Stay back!" One man lunged, but before Eli could react, Talon swooped down, his talons outstretched. He tackled the intruder, letting out a deafening cry. The second man hesitated, clearly unnerved by the sight of the fierce hybrid. Eli took advantage, firing a warning shot into the ceiling. Eli, roaring, "Get out!" The men fled, leaving behind a trail of broken glass and overturned furniture. Eli stood in the wreckage, his heart pounding. Talon landed beside him, feathers ruffled, but unharmed. Eli, breathless, grateful. "You saved me, boy." The attack left Eli shaken, but it also solidified his resolve. Talon wasn't just a creature to protect, he was family. But now, Jorah Labs had made one thing clear. They would stop at nothing to take Talon back. The next morning, Eli noticed something strange. Talon was pacing near the barn, fixated on something in the dirt. Curious, Vanessa followed. Then, Talon started digging. Minutes later, he unearthed a small metallic device. Vanessa's heart sank. Vanessa, alarmed. "They've been tracking him." Eli grabbed the device and smashed it under his boot. Eli, cold, resolute. "If they know where he is, they're coming." Vanessa, thinking fast. "Then let's use this against them. We move Talon somewhere safe, and we leave the tracker in a decoy spot." The battle had begun, but Eli wasn't running. He was ready to fight. And this time, he wasn't alone. It would buy them some time. That night, under the cover of darkness, the trio executed their plan. Caldwell drove out to a remote area, leaving the shattered tracker in an abandoned barn. Meanwhile, Eli and Vanessa led Talon deep into the woods, far from the house. They built a makeshift shelter, ensuring he remained hidden. Talon, sensing the urgency, stayed close to Eli, his bright eyes scanning the surroundings. Eli knelt beside him, placing a reassuring hand on his feathers. Eli, softly, determined, "We'll get through this, boy, I promise." By morning, drones hovered over the barn. Black SUVs swarmed the area. Through binoculars, Caldwell and Vanessa watched. Caldwell, relieved but cautious. They took the bait. Vanessa, frowning, urgent. "It won't last. We need more evidence. If we can expose them, they won't dare touch Talon." Eli, nodding. "Then let's get to work." A hidden legacy. As they worked, Vanessa made an astonishing discovery, an old journal in the farmhouse attic. Vanessa, "Eli, you need to see this." Inside, detailed sketches, notes, records of another egg, decades earlier. A creature, just like Talon. Eli's hands tightened around the pages. Eli, in disbelief. "My grandfather knew, but why didn't he tell anyone?" Vanessa pointed to a passage. Vanessa, reading aloud. "The creature must be hidden. Its abilities are a gift, but in the wrong hands. It could be a disaster." Talon wasn't an anomaly. He was part of something much bigger. A secret, guarded for generations. The town hall Caldwell rallied the community. At the local town hall, Eli and Vanessa stood before a crowd. Eli, strong, resolute. What they're doing isn't just wrong, it's dangerous. Older farmer, standing up, determined. We've seen enough of these big corporations trying to take what isn't theirs. If you need us, we're here. The fight wasn't just theirs anymore. The town stood with them. Talon's extraordinary power. Back at the farm, Talon's intelligence, and something more, became undeniable. One evening, a storm rolled in. Talon darted into the field. Eli called after him, then froze. Lightning crackled overhead, and the air around Talon seemed to hum with energy. As the storm passed, Eli stared in shock. The crops around Talon revitalized. Vanessa, awed, whispering, "He's not just rare, Eli. He's extraordinary." Eli, barely audible. "We have to protect him, no matter what." Gathering evidence. Determined to strike first, Caldwell traced the tracker's signal straight to a hidden facility. Caldwell, grim, showing the map. This is where the magic, or the mayhem, happens. Staking out the site, they captured chilling footage, mutated animals, unmarked trucks, and secretive experiments. Jorah Labs was more dangerous than they had imagined. Jorah strikes back. Jorah wasn't waiting any longer. Drones swarmed the farm. Unmarked vehicles circled. Vanessa installed cameras. Caldwell rigged alarms. And Talon? He stood watch every night on the farmhouse porch. The raid. Then, one moonlit night, engines rumbled. Headlights pierced the darkness. Eli shot upright in bed. Caldwell burst into the living room. Caldwell, urgent. "They're here." They had no choice. They had to move now. Vanessa and Caldwell rushed Talon into the barn. Eli stepped onto the porch, shotgun in hand. Kane emerged from the lead SUV, flanked by agents in black. Kane, calm but menacing. "Mr. Miller, let's not make this difficult. Hand over the creature." Eli, gritted teeth. "You have no right to be here." Kane, mocking. "We're protecting humanity. You're harboring a biological anomaly." In the barn, Talon sensed the danger. As an agent neared the trap door, a deep, guttural trill echoed through the barn. The agent froze. Then, Talon emerged from the shadows. His wings spread wide. A storm of dust and hay erupted, blinding the intruders. Vanessa grabbed Caldwell's arm. Vanessa, urgent, whispering, "We move now." They led Talon through the side entrance, into the dense woods. Back at the house, Eli was running out of options. Kane, smirking, "You can't protect it forever." Then, the wind shifted, leaves rustled, and from the darkness, Talon appeared. His wings shimmered under the moonlight. He let out a piercing cry. The agents hesitated. Eli, low, steady. "He's not a threat, unless you make him one." Kane clenched his jaw. Kane, angry, retreating. "This isn't over, Miller." They had won this round, but Jorah would return. There was only one way out. Caldwell, determined, showing the footage. "We exposed them." That night, they uploaded the evidence. By morning, Save Talon was everywhere. News stations aired the footage. Protests erupted. The world was watching. The escaped Jorah responded. Helicopters, spotlights, drones. Vanessa and Caldwell rushed Talon toward the woods. Eli stood his ground. Kane stepped forward, voice crackling over a loudspeaker. Kane, cold, threatening. "You've made him too valuable, Miller. We'll find him." Eli's grip tightened on his shotgun. Then, a deafening cry tore through the air. Talon returned, wings outstretched. The sky itself seemed to tremble. The agent stumbled back. Kane's confident mask cracked. Kane, furious, retreating. "This isn't over!" As the last of Jorah's helicopters vanished, Eli turned to Talon, hand on his beak. Eli, softly but fiercely, "You saved us, buddy." The final stand. They couldn't stay. Caldwell had one last plan, sanctuary, a hidden wildlife reserve, a place where Jorah couldn't reach them. As dawn broke, they made their escape. The road was long, dangerous. But Talon was more than a secret, More than a mystery, he was hope, and they would protect him no matter what. Vanessa's eyes widened in awe as she gazed upon Talon. "He's magnificent," she whispered, barely able to find her voice. Eleanor led them to a secluded part of the reserve, a vast sanctuary with dense foliage, open fields, and a freshwater stream. "This will be his home," she explained. "He'll be safe here, away from prying eyes." As they released Talon from the trailer, he stretched his wings and let out a triumphant cry, his voice echoing across the reserve. He took a tentative step forward, then another, before launching into the air. Watching him soar above the treetops, Vanessa felt tears well in her eyes. Over the next few days, the Millers and Caldwell worked closely with Eleanor, ensuring Talon's transition was smooth. They monitored his behavior, provided food, and gave him time to adjust. One evening, as Talon perched on a rocky outcrop, Eleanor turned to Eli. "What you've done here is incredible, not just for Talon, but for conservation efforts everywhere. His story will inspire so many." Eli nodded, pride swelling in his chest. "It wasn't easy, but it was worth it," he said. Vanessa added, "He's more than just a rare creature. He's a symbol of resilience, of fighting for what matters." But despite the peace they had found at the reserve, they knew Jorah Labs wouldn't give up easily. Caldwell spent his nights gathering evidence against the organization, rallying support from conservationists and journalists. Meanwhile, Eli and Vanessa focused on rebuilding their lives, staying close to the reserve, visiting Talon often, and ensuring his safety. As the months passed, Talon thrived. His presence revitalized the ecosystem, drawing in other wildlife. Birds nested in the trees he favored. Small mammals found shelter nearby. Then one day, Eleanor made an incredible discovery. "He's building a nest," she said in awe, pointing to the cliffs. Watching Talon carefully weave branches together, Vanessa whispered, "He's finally home." Months later, Eli and Vanessa welcomed a new addition to their family, a baby girl they named Hope. Oliver, now a curious toddler, was thrilled to be a big brother. His laughter echoed through the reserve, filling their world with love and joy. Talon remained a constant presence. Though he now lived in the wild, he always seemed to know when the Millers visited, soaring down to greet them with a powerful cry. One evening, as they sat around a campfire, Eli turned to Vanessa. "Do you ever think about how it all started? That giant egg in the field, it feels like a lifetime ago." Vanessa smiled, the firelight flickering in her eyes. "It was the beginning of something we never could have imagined. Talon changed our lives. He brought us closer as a family. He gave us purpose." Nearby, Eleanor nodded. "And he's done even more than that," she said. "His story is inspiring conservation efforts worldwide. People are waking up to the importance of protecting our planet." Caldwell raised his mug in a toast. "To Talon, to resilience, and to the Millers, may their story continue to inspire for generations to come." As the flames crackled and the stars shone overhead, the Millers reflected on their journey. They knew there would always be challenges ahead, battles to fight, causes to champion. But they also knew they were stronger now, united by love, purpose, and hope. As Talon's cry echoed through the night, they felt gratitude for everything that had led them here. Because in that vast, wild reserve, they had found more than just a rare creature. They had found a future filled with endless possibilities.